Was gonna do a video on Tom King just being a all around scumbag again, but yeah, no, I saw this and I thought maybe I'll do a video on Tom King next. I really am not sure myself, but yeah, the article is about it in the comics. You have Star Wars voice actress Taya Sircar blaming Rush and Reagan administration for botched Afghanistan withdrawal. I mean, Reagan didn't help the situation, but at the same time, how is that? How is the withdrawal his fault? Well, anyway, I'll just read the article and probably give some comments here or there. Voice actress, known for her role as Sabine Renault, another reason to hate Sabine, in Disney's Star Wars Rebels, recently placed blame for the Biden administration's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan on both George W. Bush and Ronald Reagan administrations. I'm no fan of Bush. Don't get me wrong. I despise him now. I consider him a war criminal. If I could, I would tie him up and hand him over to the Afghanistan people and let them have their way with him. Like, they could have their sick fun with him. But at the same time, the withdrawal is on. Well, you can also sort of blame it on Trump, but at least he was trying to make it to where the Taliban wouldn't do damage after they left. Biden just pissed off everyone as he left. He pissed off the right, he pissed off the left, he pissed off the warlords who were supposed to keep the Taliban in check. Yeah. So Biden is to blame for this, no one else. And the fact that he left people behind to be tortured and killed by the Taliban, like, if you still support the Biden administration after that, you got problems. I mean, I don't care if you voted for him, but yeah, after all the crap y'all gave us saying we had blood on our hands because we voted for Trump, yeah, compared to us, y'all look like the real monsters now. In a recent Twitter post, Sakar blamed George W. Bush, Vice President Dick Cheney, and former Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld for the the dumpster fire of a mess in Afghanistan. Sakar tweeted, "Hey guys, if you've been busy twisting your undies in a bunch trying to figure out if this dumpster fire of a mess in Afghanistan is the direct fault of Biden or Trump, did you perhaps bonk your head at some point and forget about these dudes right here? I mean, we shouldn't have been there, and Bush lied, so I can kind of agree with her on some level, but Reagan, anyway, like, oh, here's the thing. Back when Reagan was president, he did give money to, like, Afghan people to fight the Soviets, and then we gave that money to the Contras, but that was it, as far as I know. In a follow-up tweet, the Star Wars Rebel actress also placed blame for the current situation in Afghanistan on former President Ronald Reagan, who's dead, by the way. She wrote, "Not to mention this dude right here, along with the CIA and Operation Cyclone, arming, train, and financing the Afghan Mujahideen who eventually formed today's Taliban." Sinkar would further clarify her claims in the response to Twitter user Piper Jim 717. She wrote, "Mansplain 101 lead with 'You don't understand very well', well aware they weren't the Taliban back then, as I said in my LP. Amazed anyone could think that only way to know what went on in the 80s is to be old enough to remember them yourself. Rough day for history books." What a bitch. The Bush administration did lead America into Afghanistan in the wake of 9/11, and Reagan's administration did finance the Afghan Mujahideen freedom fighters in the 1980s. George Washington University's history professor Benjamin Hopkins via WUSA 9 clearly detailed that the United States' support of the anti-Soviet forces through the 1980s. It really gets going in the 1985 with something called Operation Cyclone. A Congressional Research Service report also stated the Mujahideen benefited from the U.S. weapons and assistance provided through the Central Intelligence Agency in cooperation with Pakistan Inter-Service Intelligence Directorate. However, WUSA 9 reports, according to other experts, the Mujahideen predate the Taliban, which began to form in 1994, some 5 years after the majority of the funding of the Mujahideen had stopped. Reagan's term in office ended on January 1989. On top of that, Charles Dunbar, the former ambassador to Qatar and Yemen, as well as the former charge of Dafaneries, I don't know, I can't pronounce that right, in Afghanistan in the 1980s, states that the U.S. government did not fund the Taliban. He explains, there is a story of Americans, armies, and Soviet insurgency of, I think it should be, some of whom then go on to become part of what will be the Taliban, but any sort of direct linkage, U.S. Army, the Mujahideen, in the 1980s, which supports the Taliban in the 2000s, is incorrect. It appears Sinkar's accusations are misguided at best, and neither of these administrations have been involved with the disastrous withdrawal plans recently and solely enacted by the Biden administration. After all, it was Biden's administration who, knowing full well that President Trump had established a timeline of full American withdrawal from the country, chose to immediately and seemingly without any consideration to the results of the vacuum of power evacuate Afghanistan. While Bush, Obama, and Trump may have had their roles to play in the ongoing conflict, it was Biden's poor foresight and planning that allowed the Taliban to recapture Kabul and seize the untold amount of American military technology, and who are now, according to reports, going to door throughout the city looking for American sympathizers. Yeah, that's the really fucked up part about Biden backing out, is they left some people there to die. And yeah, like, I heard one guy, like, this was something my mom told me, he was someone on TikTok claimed that one of the interpreters, he was killed. He had his ID card melted onto his chest. His daughter was given to the leaders of the Taliban to have only God knows what happened to her. And, yeah, Biden voters, if you hear this, you kind of opened the door for this to be possible. Congratulations. I mean, yeah, so you will about Trump. He never caused death like this. Well, actually, no, he did launch some missiles in Syria, which was a pretty bad move, but yeah. And that's the article. I mean, it is fair to say that in some way the CIA did have an influence. Well, they were a factor in some things, but that was fighting the Soviet Union, who, bear in mind, wanted all the world to be communistic, so they had an interest in stopping the expansion of communism. I mean, that doesn't justify what the CIA and Reagan did, but at the same time, like, it was an ideological war. And don't get me wrong, I think the Cold War was stupid. I do think we were right to be against Russia because they stole the plans for a nuclear bomb and made one of their own. They also created a faction that put knives in their boots, supposedly. Honestly, this just kind of feels like someone shifting the goalpost or just trying to find someone else to blame to divert blame away from Biden. And to that I say, screw this bitch. Like, just because the guy you probably voted for did this doesn't mean you can shift the blame whenever you like. Like, you do not get to decide who's at fault here. Biden and his administration are at fault here. Not Bush. And don't get me wrong, again, I despise Bush. If I could, I would have him tied up and given to the people of the Middle East to do with as they please. But yeah, he's a war criminal, he's a piece of shit, and a hypocrite. And a traitor as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that being said, that's the article. Again, this just feels like her moving the goalpost and trying to shift blame to someone else. And don't get me wrong, again, you can blame Bush for a lot of things, but the fallout of invading Afghanistan, that is not completely on him. That falls, most of the blame for that goes to the Biden administration. I mean, you can blame Bush for causing us to be there in the first place, but that's it. I mean, we never should have been there to begin with. But anyway, that's the video. Actually, no, we probably should have been there to some degree, but not for as long as we were. Or at the very least, we should have made we shouldn't have put so much reliance on the locals to take care of the Taliban after we left. Like, those guys were, yeah, they were not, like, there were warning signs they were just going to put down their guns and give up the second we left, but yeah. Anyway, again, that's the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and have a nice day. And remember, the game was rigged from the start.